You're listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense with your host, Doug Thorpe. Here's Doug.
Hello again, everyone. This is Leadership Powered by Common Sense, and you're listening to Doug Thorpe. And I do have a guest today who's going to join us. His name is Matt Shoup, and Matt is out of Colorado. He is a successful entrepreneur and business coach and kind of leadership guru. And since that's what our show's about, I invited Matt to join us and share some of his stories getting through the businesses that he's helped created and run. So Matt, welcome to the show.
Doug, thanks for having me. I've been excited to meet with you ever since we first met.
Yeah. And, one of the things I'm going to be totally transparent here. Matt was very gracious when the arrangement was made for this show. He sent me a very nice welcome kit that had a coffee espresso device in it with some custom coffee. Is that one of your enterprises? Let me just ask you that.
You know what it is it's that's just a passion of mine that I've been able to turn into something really fun that we do in the business. So we don't sell coffee or coffee boilers, but we have a little spot here in our building downstairs. It's called Cafe Sevilla, and it's a spot where people can come by and we show love to them. And anybody that donates to it gets to help us send students to Spain through Colorado State University. We've got a scholarship there. And that just started with my love of Spain and Spanish coffee, and then just sharing that with other people.
Oh, very neat. Well, publicly, I will thank you. I've already thanked you privately for the gift, but I'll do
Thank
it
you.
publicly. It was a great surprise when the package arrived. And so let's just, if you will, kind of just in a short form, could you recap some of the enterprises and businesses you've gotten involved in over the years?
Yeah, so I currently own M&E Painting and Roofing. So we founded M&E Painting back in 2005, and we've now incorporated roofing, gutters, and other exterior home services. So we're coming up on 2 decades and have a book of residential and commercial real estate. So I help people buy and sell real estate, and then we've got a couple of investments as well. And then I am a co-owner of Northern Colorado Jiu-Jitsu. We are a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Judo, and self-defense academy. And that, again, was another passion that me and a buddy got together, that trained together for a long time. And now we've got a business, and everything's all here in one building. And then what I've done with all of that is, from stories throughout growing all of those companies, I'm an author, a speaker, and a coach. You call me a leadership guru, I would say thanks, but I'm always learning and getting better. So I wouldn't say I'm a guru. It's a passion of mine. I love people, and I love stories, hearing stories, sharing stories, and then just helping people get better in life and business, because it's really all the same thing when you strip it down to its fundamentals.
Yeah. Well, I think and I credit you for just even having a curiosity about leadership, because quite honestly, not everybody does. People go into business, they get busy with the thing, whatever it may be, the service or the product, and they quickly realize they need a team to help really grow the business. And if you've got a team, guess what? Leadership's going to be a factor, whether you know it or not, and
Yes,
whether you believe in it or not. And the more you can do to, groom yourself to become a better leader, the better the business will be in general. So that's a theme that I've seen play out, and I help a lot of my small business clients today do just that. And it is a challenge.
I found out very quickly in the early days of business, when I founded my painting company, I'm naturally gifted with the gift of gab, marketing, sales. I've been doing that since I was a little kid. I knocked on doors and shoveled snow and cut grass and sold candy bars. So I was good at that part of the business. But yeah, when it got to hiring, training, and just leading and understanding people and how they tick and how to lead them and how to be a leader, not a boss, I found out that I was really bad. And I could not understand why people didn't want to stay in the company. And initially, I just defaulted to just getting angry and upset about it, which was an issue I had to go through. But when I really found out that business life, leadership, right, it's just humans serving other humans. We get together with a collective goal, vision, and cause. And then we drive forward towards that, right? Marriage is that. Friendships are that. Business is that. Business is married with, or measured with profit and loss statements, right? There's dollars and cents involved. But in just about all those categories, I wasn't great at it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if I may ask, what were some of the early lessons you figured out and were able to turn around?
Yeah, a couple of lessons is when you get into business or you get into anything where you're going to be working with, you can't be selfish. You have other people to think about, other people to care about. Now, you also don't want to be a martyr at the same time. Pour into other people, understand their story, understand their vision and goals, and then to help them accomplish that. And then that's going to help you accomplish your vision and goals.
Hey, Matt, we're getting audio fade in and out on your end.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just do something really quick and see if I can make that better. If you just give me a second.
Sure.
Been experimenting with some new headphones, and I don't know that I like them because you've now told me that, I think, twice. Give me just a second here.
Yeah.
All right, how are we doing now?
Yeah, that's good.
Awesome, perfect.
All right, my signal here is for the editors. They'll know that something's going on. They need to look at it.
Sounds good. Okay. Do you want me to pick it back up, or?
Yeah, I'll pick it back up with the question of what were some of the early lessons you figured out to improve and assert your leadership influence?
Okay, sounds good. All right. Yeah, great question. A couple of important things as I think back is one thing is just I didn't understand people and that their stories matter. And when somebody comes to work with you and for you in a business, they're giving you 40, 50, sometimes more hours per week of their life. And, you're giving them a job and they're getting paid and they provide the service to the company, but they've got bigger goals, dreams, aspirations in life. And I just didn't know how to connect with people at that level. I was very, very commoditized. Here's what we're paying. Here's what you're doing. Hey, this isn't working. And there was no deeper connection. So I would say first thing is understanding people and their stories, what their goals, dreams, and visions are, and then connecting with people. And I wasn't great at connecting with people because, and this is the point of Painted Baby, the book I wrote is I was always putting on this facade, this picture perfect, A+ 5-star, shiny marketing brochure. I'm this awesome business guy. And I would never take a risk and be brave and vulnerable with like, hey, here's some things that I've screwed up. Here's some things I don't know. And I really led with a lot of ego, attitude, and I had a lot to prove because that was a lot of just where I came from. And I was just dealing with that personally. So the lesson in all that is you will connect with others when you're brave and vulnerable and you take a risk and share something that might put you at risk. And your business will only grow to the degree that you do personally. So I've really noticed as my companies have grown and the leadership dynamic has grown, it's really just been as I've grown and then shared that with others and done that together.
We've talked before on this show about a story of an entrepreneur, also over in the Denver area. He owns a plumbing company, and one of the things he inserted or installed early on in his business, he brings his whole team together, everybody, journeyman, apprentice, gopher, warehouse guy, everybody comes together once a quarter and they have a vision board party. Every person is challenged to map out and update their own personal vision board. What's next in your life? What are you shooting for? What are you thinking about? What are you working on? And he tells a great story that he had a new plumber join his team and was now coming to the first episode of this event. And the guy, all he could think about to put on his board was the fact he wanted to buy 2 bicycles for his little girls. And he really genuinely couldn't think of anything else. That was his focus. That was his passion. That's what he felt to be a personal achievement. That's what he needed to do, is figure out how to get enough money over and above his regular budget to buy these bicycles. Well, the owner of the company knew already in the back of his mind, he's got all these great spot promotional programs at his business. So he said to that guy, he said, "We're going to crush this goal. Let me tell you more about what we do here." And he got into it. And sure enough, it was only a matter of about 2 weeks of this guy getting on board with all their promotional ideas. And it was all related to growing the brand with clients, with homeowners who use their plumbing services. And this individual just got real busy, did all the work, and scored really high on all the KPIs and the metrics, and won a bunch of those spot bonuses. And poof, bicycles were done, and now he was ready. And next time he came around for the vision board, he had a lot more ideas about what he wanted to do.
Did. And I mean, I've seen, and this is true to my story for a while, is I didn't know what that meant to vision until somebody showed that to me. So as a leader, you have to show somebody what visioning is, that you actually can vision, and then help them to achieve that. Because the day in, day out of business, right? If it's just about hit your numbers, hit your KPIs, you're a cog in the wheel, like things get hard. People have life outside of business, and everybody's always dealing with something. That's something that I've really learned, is you never know what people are dealing with. So just kindness and compassion, giving some space for that. But yeah, when there's a bigger thing to work towards and they see that they can do it and then they attain it, it works that muscle, right? It's really like a muscle, and it's cool to see where a lot of our team has started and where they've ended up. I've got a really fun story if we wanted to dive a little bit deeper into vision, but it's an amazing story of a team member. He's no longer with us, but that was his vision, and we helped him get there, and he's changing people's lives.
Yeah. Tell us more about that story.
So in 2012, you'd been about 7 years in business, and we were really getting to a point where we needed to split off and have another project manager. So we had been working with a gentleman. His name is Rick Skadden, and he's happy that I share this story with everybody. And he had just moved into town and was doing a lot of just contract piecework here and there. So go repair some siding, fix a window, get the houses ready to paint. And when I met him, he'd work during the day, and then he'd go to Bible study and be involved in his church at night. So, I mean, he was very involved in his church, very much a Jesus follower, very vocal about it. And I'm like, what a nice guy, super kind, super just good human. And every once in a while, he'd be on a job site and he'd get upset. Customer would say something and it would just kind of catch him off guard, and he'd kind of get a little angry and he'd kind of pop off. I called it getting a little gangster. And I said, "Hey, what is that about?" And he's like, "Well, when we get to know each other, I'll share with you a little bit more just where I came from before we met." So I offered him a position to be promoted to in-house full-time, employed team member project manager. And he said, "Hey, do you run background checks? Because I've got some felonies. We need to go sit down and have coffee." And he shared a story with me. He grew up in a neighborhood rife with drugs, drug addiction, gangs, and all the activities that people would do to pay for that kind of lifestyle. So he's seen and done just about everything from drugs to alcohol from a young age. And he got to a point where 5-6 years prior to us meeting, he was at a party. He was with his fiance, found out fiance's cheating on him. He's been drinking all day. He rips off in a vehicle out of that party just in a rage, and goes speeding down one of the main roads outside of Denver, and ran a red light, T-boned a car, and ended up killing somebody, and time in prison for taking another man's life. Right. So like we're sitting here 6 or 7 years after that incident. We're sitting in a coffee shop, and he was brave and vulnerable and laid that on the table. Like he's at a risk right there. But he's like, "Matt, I found God in prison. I turned my life over to Jesus. I buckled down. I started following the word and what he says. And I want to be a pastor. And right now I'm out putting siding on houses and painting houses and, coming to work for you because I want to pay off debt. I've got a family. I just got married. I've got some twin girls that just came, like life hit him all at once when he got out of prison." And he said, "Here's what I want." So I said, "Hey, before we bring you on, it's now 2013. I want you to paint the picture of 2016 and then 2019. So his 3 and then 3, so 6-year vision was that he was quitting our company to go be a pastor. And I'm over in Spain in 2019, hiking the Camino. I'm in Northwest Spain, and my phone rings and it's him. We actually pay for our team members to go through a 2-day process called a life plan. where they sit down with a facilitator and they map out their life, they find their purpose and their calling, and then map out how to get there. And I knew when he did that he would call me and his life statement would confirm what he already knew. So I picked up the phone and he read it to me. And I was like, well, we gotta get you out of M&D painting as quick as possible. And he said, yeah. So towards the end of 2019, he transitioned out to become a full-time pastor. And we recently go back and have read his past visions that he's been updating. And it's just been the coolest thing to see. He's sitting in prison a decade ago, right? And now he's a lead pastor of a church and he's speaking on platforms, all because he lined that out and painted that picture into the future. And it was so cool to help him get there. I think a lot of business owners say, well, we don't want our employees to get too big and too great because then they're going to leave us. And that's a very selfish comment. It's like, no, I wanted every day for that guy to get to that point to be able to step out and do what he's called to do.
Yeah, you raise a great point, and that is a fear, particularly in the home service and trade-oriented industries. I can't tell you how many company owners I've run across that the first time an employee whispers the idea of going independent, the owner just flips a switch and now that person is dead to them. You're dead to me if you're going to do that. And for several of the owners that I have had the privilege of working with, their mindset is a perfect 180 of that idea. Like you described, when the person comes up and says, I've got this longer term vision, then these I'll call them more enlightened leaders will say, awesome, let's figure out how to get you there. And if my business is just a bridge, a temporary bridge for you getting there, I'm good with that. I will help you, I'll coach you, I'll mentor you. And back to the one gentleman in Denver there that owns the plumbing company, he has had that, and he tells a story in his time with his business. He's had 5 different guys, master plumbers, show up and say, I think I want to run my own company. And his answer is, great. For the next 90 days, I will make time to sit with you and we will talk about what it means to own a business and run a business. And the very long story short is 4 out of 5 guys, after they did all that, they go, yeah, you know what? I'm pretty happy doing what I'm doing right now. When you really describe and share, thank you for sharing, I don't need to do that anymore. I'm going to take that off my vision board, that I can do more than enough right here with, if I work hard and stay on your bus, and I'll be fine with that.
No, I love that. And it's interesting because you can see this in every industry I'm in. So painting, roofing, residential contracting, and then, real estate. Oh, we're going to leave the brokerage, go here, or we're going to go start a brokerage, and then jujitsu. There are 5 jujitsu schools in Loveland, Colorado, and in northern Colorado that came from one original jujitsu school where people ended up leaving. And I think the first thing is just the abundance and love and contribution side of the equation, right? The opposite of that is just fear, scarcity, and anger. So great, we have somebody here. Hey, I want to work for 5 years and then I want to go start my own thing. Okay, great. We'll coach you. We'll help you. Now, we've got, I think, 3 competing painting companies here in town that used to work for us, right? They worked here at M&E, and 2 out of those 3, came to me and they said, hey, here's the goal. Here's where I want to be. Here's how I want to make this split. We're not going to steal clients. We're going to do everything on the up and up. And I still see these people and talk to these people and support these people. We interchange referrals when we're too busy. Now, we've also had on the flip side, and this is where leaders also need to, face this reality, is we had somebody who worked for us who put in notice, said, no, I'm not going to go start another painting company. I'm going to get into a totally different industry. So I'm going to give you 2 weeks. I'll get all my jobs closed out. And what he was really doing was logging into the CRM, downloading all of the client information, and then stealing work. So we ended up having a different conversation. I did not stay in touch with him and gave him every opportunity to own that. And, that's how those things can end sometime. But, and those experiences for me, I'll be honest with you, as a leader, I sit here and I'm like, maybe I should rein back a little bit of what we're pouring into people. maybe I shouldn't go teach this person all about business. But when you look at it, you can't let one person's decision of how they do something, when he was lying, cheating, stealing, and being dishonest, that's a reflection of him. You can't change who you are as a leader when the 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 10 times something like that happens. So.
Right. Right. Well, back to the original point, I love the theme of really yourself as a leader being vulnerable and open, but then also appreciating that in others. And I realize it's a little more academic and a little more scientific, but I often talk to my clients about the infamous Maslow's hierarchy,
Yes.
and the principle there, just for those listening that don't remember it or never knew about it, it's a pyramid of human existence, and our baseline existence is simply survival. It's the caveman in the cave. Is the lion going to eat me or am I going to eat him? And that's that worry. But as you get those questions resolved, and obviously in our modern world, it's easier to resolve those things, albeit not certain for everybody, right? But the point is, there are levels in this thing up to self-actualization and sort of, I call it optimized living. Well, your employees show up with that in their mind and in their heart, and they're bouncing up and down on that hierarchy. I mean, if they had a big fight with the spouse on the way out the door to go to work, they're not focused on your deal, at least not maybe through the morning. They've got to get over whatever personal challenge they're involved with to be able to focus and show up. And as a leader, you can't just fire them on the spot for obviously not being connected to the work for a minute. And it's a challenge, though, as a leader to dial in, tune in, and pay attention to all those moving parts.
And I love that you mentioned Maslow's hierarchy, because that person, that team member, right, they're bouncing all up and down. They're like, maybe they're short rent that month and they're wondering how they're going to put food on the table, right, to all the way up to, big purpose. They have this big realization they're moving through. Your company also provides provision at all of those different levels, right? So like one thing I always say as a leader, if what you're paying somebody does not support what they need to be paid to not go upside down and underwater, don't pull that trigger, don't move forward. They can love your job, love your vision, love the job description, but they're going to come home and be upside down every day. And we like to have that conversation with somebody we're going to hire and their spouse. Me and my wife sit down with them. So you've got that baseline. They need to feel safe, right, and contributed to from just the basics. But then you have self-actualization at the top. What's your purpose, your vision, your dreams? Rick, you want to be a pastor. But then right above the basics is the human need to connect. And I wrote about this in Painted Baby. We have this urge and this yearning to connect with other people. And when the leader can go first and say, hey, here's a moment when I screwed up, or I'm not perfect. Hey, I'm human too. I dropped the ball. All of a sudden it opens up the door for this other person to do that. And then they'll reciprocate. But as leaders, you have to connect with your team before you can take them to that level. I actually call it pouring into people. We just had some stickers made. I literally would have sent you one with the coffee, but they came in like 3 days after we sent your coffee. It's the combination of 3 words that start with C. It's connection, contribution, and care. So when you can deeply connect with somebody and understand their story so you can contribute to their life and actually care about who they are as a person, it's the intersection of those 3 things. Like for us, that's what I love doing every day. That's the sweet spot in our business. That's what differentiates us from other companies. And I just encourage everybody to really look into those 3 things and how they can implement that into their business with their team and also front facing to their customers and their community.
Yeah. Well, related to all of that is the idea that, somewhere in some business school, somebody came up with the idea that the people are my most valuable asset. Well, as my career and experience has evolved, I've come to the place that that's a horrible way to think about your team. And as soon as you say that they're an asset, you immediately either consciously or subconsciously relegate them to some attribute somewhere in your mix of numbers.
Mm.
And if you stand on that square for too long, I think it's too easy to miss the human side of the human participation in your enterprise and what
Yeah.
people need to do for and with you. And the more you can do to just treat them as a fellow human being, recognize and I mean, you don't have to bow down by any means, but you at least can and probably should think of them as equals on the human scale.
Well, and I love that you share that because you say, oh, this person's an asset. So I'm thinking, I think I just said that about somebody the other day. They're a great asset to the company, right? So it puts them as a cog, almost a piece of equipment versus the same thing. Yes, they bring value, they're bringing a return, but it's like, wow, Kevin, he's our COO of M&D Painting and Roofing, shows up every day, and this guy brings all of himself, his story, his skill set, his passions, and he brings immense value to people and makes their life better. So talking about it in that language, and that, yes, is an asset. But yeah, you gotta be careful with the words. I've got a little saying I say a lot that if you focus on the profit, the people will run. When you pour into people, the profit will come.
Hmm.
So, you know, somebody told me once, Matt, don't be a dummy. Your business needs to make money. Like you need to have money in the bank, or it's the fuel that fuels the business. But when that's your only focus and you're focusing on that at the expense of people or without consideration of people, I've been there. Things don't work. That profit doesn't hang around. So I really encourage business owners, you focus on the people, building them up, all these things we talked about, and then letting them find their sweet spot where they can connect, contribute, care for people with an overarching gifting and then learned skill set that feeds your company and what you do. They're all going to be A player, rock star, assets, right? Those are the business terms. But you're just going to have fun working with them as well.
Well, not to beat the wording of this to death, but to refer to somebody as an asset, if it's just in the spirit of high value, high contributor, meaningful member of the team, okay, assets probably not a bad word, but I think too often people that are trying to kind of learn the business side of things hear somebody say that about the team and the people, and it immediately pushes them into that mode of, yeah, it's like buying a new piece of equipment. No, your people aren't that.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're way more than that, and you can get a lot more from them if you really focus your leadership ideas on how to do that. So
The word that bothers me is employee. I hate that word. I do everything I can. My HR team, we have an outsourced HR. They're like, you have to say it's an employment handbook. I'm like, it's a team. We're a team. We're a family. So just employee versus team member, just the connotation of that. These are my employees versus we are a team.
yes.
Level playing field, right? There's a hierarchy, right? CEO, COO, department heads. But yeah, the words do matter, and it's super important in leadership. And I'm really glad you touched on that.
Yeah, and just in a little bit of time we've got left here, are there any other big focus areas that you had to learn the hard way and move into?
So many, gosh, so many. I come back to, for me, I think the biggest key to my success is understanding where I'm at in my personal journey, my personal faith, spiritual journey, mental health. There's been times when I was not in good places and not healthy places, and it totally flows into the business, right? So you can have the best business vision, operations manual, team, but if you show up every day and you've got something in your life and your story and your background, whether people know about it or not, you have not handled that. You have not overcome that. You have not called yourself out. I call it the 3 C's of changing your story. There's something you need to change in your story and you're not, it is going to be a detriment to your business. And if it's a not good thing, it's going to show up in the business. And it might not be showing up now, but it will leak into the business. So just overarching things. I grew up as a young kid. I got bullied and abused growing up. So I was very angry about it. And I actually found business and knocking on doors as a 10-year-old as a source and sense of identity and certainty and value. So with that, the more I did that, the more worthy people would find me. So I thought. So this pursuit of business and money was really fueled by anger and a sense of needing to prove worthiness to people. So when I grew M&D Painting from $100 in the bank to a multi-million-dollar company, that was all done with anger. Like, we grew a big company, like we have great things in the community that we developed, but I was just super pissed off 22 to 26, 27-year-old. So I got called out in a really big way by a coach, by a business coach, right? This is what you do. He's like, Matt, how come every time you almost get to this next level and you're almost there? Have you noticed this? He says, something just tends to blow up and it's everybody else's fault and you just blow your top. And then he goes, And then I got mad at him and I screamed at him. So yeah, that's one example of just check yourself, call yourself out, have somebody in your life that has permission, invitation, and connection with you to call you out on the crap that you need to deal with, and then deal with it.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Yeah, much has been spoken and written about the stories we tell ourselves, those infamous tapes. And I met a man yesterday, actually, at my church, and he's someone I'd been told stories about, and he happened to be there, guest visitor type. But he had been a career-long music minister. But lo and behold, as we got to talking, turns out his parents wanted him to learn piano when he was a young boy, and he did about 2 years, hated every minute of it. And the instructor stood up to the parents and said, he's not in it, and I'm not going to take your money and waste my time doing this. He's got to figure out what he really wants to do. And if he ever really wants to learn how to play piano, I'm happy to come back and work with you. But for the moment, we're done. And for some, that might have tainted them, but for him, it actually inspired him he liked music. He just didn't like the process of learning how to play piano. But then lo and behold, turns out he did take away enough learning in those 2 years that he, in later years, when he shifted his focus, he realized piano was a great tool to be a music minister. That's usually a parallel. So he pretty much self-taught, and now he's allegedly, I haven't heard him play yet, but those who know him well say he's just a master at piano and does most of it by sight. I mean, by ear, not sight, so.
I bet.
And, so as he was telling that story, I was doing my coach thing. I was checking some stuff off in my mind. I thought, what a great story, because too often our whole adult life is shaped by the stories we were told as younger people, children and adolescent. And if those negative stories take root, you got a big uphill climb.
Yes, the stories that you hear others tell you about yourself that you then deem to be true and plant that into you, and then you go live it out that way. And then all of a sudden it's just confirmation bias all day long. Well, look, it must be true because I'm searching for the truth in that. And yeah, for me, I had to rewrite my program. Like, my business theme was not pour into people 10, 15 years ago, right? I really shifted from that anger and fear mentality to love and appreciation and contribution. And yeah, and my faiths played a huge part of that as well. So if you have faith-based listeners, don't be scared to be bold and declare that and share that and stand on that. You may have some people that don't understand it, don't agree with it. But for me, when you can go to work every day, love people, be kind to people. We had a customer the other day, her husband was in the process of getting ready to pass away from cancer. And she came in to pay her bill. We're just like, don't pay the bill. We're going to cover it. And what do you need? What can we do for you right now? And she's like, I just want you to pray with me. Like, I'd never done that in 20 years of business, but I'm like, that's what she needs right now. So that's what we did.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
great. No, so very true. Well, Matt, we are about up on time, and I really appreciate you sitting in and sharing all these things. Tell folks the best way to get a hold of you.
Yeah, best way is mattshoup.com.
Very good. Well, as always, we will have that link in the show notes. So if you're listening on your favorite streaming service or want to check us out on YouTube, a video by the same name, Leadership Powered by Common Sense, hop over there, leave a comment, let us know what you want to do. And certainly, if you're interested in learning more about Matt's story on how he's built his businesses, plural, click that link, get in touch, and you'll see a lot more there on that website. So Matt, one last time, thanks, man, for sitting
Thank you,
in.
Doug. Appreciate you.
All right. With that, folks, we're going to sign off, say goodbye, go out there, make it a great day.
You've been listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense, hosted by Doug Thorpe. If you would like to know more about the coaching and advisory services he provides, visit dougthorpe.com.